Oh, hello there. Oh, yep. The seat ain't sketchy. So, welcome to my creek. In this video, I'm going to show you how I built this. A Mad Dog hardwood spear gun. So, for those who don't know, my name's Jarvis, and I make shit a lot. And one of the things that I made recently was this spear gun. I don't know where to begin. I have a list of so I kind of filmed the process, but I thought I would just take you through start to finish of what I did to actually get this to the finished product. And it was my first time ever building a spear gun, but it really works and I use it every single day pretty much. What I first did was me and Kia's been building these as well. So he got me a nice bit of red hardwood. So yeah, what I first did was when I got the bit of wood, I drew up where the trigger mech would go and where the spear shaft would actually sit, and also where the handle would go. So I had to measure how big my shaft was compared to the actual length of wood. So after I drew everything, I also drew up my handle, and I ended up scrapping that handle because it just wasn't what I was looking for. I decided to go just the single piece handle like that, just so everyone can use it, so it's not tailored just to my hand and just to my use. This is like a shore dive gun. It's not really an offshore gun. It's pretty small. So when I shore dive, I like to carry my gun by my handle behind me like that, just because it's easier to swim with rather than facing it forward all the time if I'm trying to swim to a different location to spear. Yeah, once I drew it all up, I started routing out the hole. So I route just bit by bit through the hole all the way back to where I knew I would put the trigger mech. I didn't go all the way through the length of the wood because there's no need. So I just did it all the way to the length of the trigger mech. It was pretty difficult. I'm not the best at routing. It just takes a lot of skill and patience to do it right. I just rush it all the time and it just goes and catches and it fucks up your bit of wood. So, holy shit, it's hot in the sun. So after that, I then moved on to routing out the trigger mech, so where it would sit. So I started with just drilling one big hole through the entire bit of wood, and then I stuck my router in and routed out within the lines of where I drew where the trigger mech would go. And again, that was pretty difficult because I routed a little bit too much, which means I had to put in some epoxy so that the screws of the trigger mech would actually still go in the wood. In this trigger mech, there's 2 screws at the front, 1 screw at the back, and then 1 pin at the back. So you have to line up the pins perfectly, and that's what I did last. So once I routed out my trigger mech hole and knew where my handle was going to sit and all that, I then actually cut out the shape. Before that, it was just a big old plank of wood, and then I moved on to cutting out the shape. So I drew up my shape, got it all nice and neat, cut it out on the circular saw. And pro tip, don't use a circular blade when cutting out your shape, because the circular blade, even though on top it looks like you've only cut to your mark, because it's circular, it actually sinks in like 10 mil. So it cuts into your wood, even though you won't know until you're finished. So that's what happened. Like here, I was cutting off a piece and it looked like it stopped there, but on the other side it actually cut all the way through because it's a circular saw, so don't use that. And then once that was cut, I then drilled a couple holes through here for where the rubbers were going to sit. So once the rubbers were able, it was wide enough to sit in there, I just routed that out, and then I got a special tool to, I don't know what it's called, but just make it all nice and smooth so that it doesn't cut the rubber when you're loading the gun. Basically, once that was done, I was pretty much ready to put on all my gear and start actually piecing together the gun. So I then sanded it all back really nice. So I started with 80, 120, 240, and then eventually 500, and got it all as smooth as I could. And then I test fitted where the trigger mech would go, and I don't think I filmed that, but I test fitted it. So that basically means I just put it in, put where my handle needed to go, didn't epoxy it in yet, I didn't epoxy anything, and then I put in the screws just to see where the shaft would go in properly. Once that was all test fitted, and then I could move on to the epoxying of the actual gun. We had white, which don't get white, it looks stupid, get the clear. But then we decided to mix it with a bit of black paint so it turned grey, and it looks gross, but it does the job. It holds it, it's really strong, and you know, it's not gonna fail. With the epoxy, I got Kia to help me with that just because he's done it before and I didn't want to fuck it up. Yeah, we mixed it all together and then we just painted it all in. So I just got a bit of dowel basically, or made my own dowel, and then sunk it into my handle and then into the spear gun, so it has that extra support of a piece of wood inside the gun. And then we waited. So I sanded back the epoxy. I was a bit lazy with it. I was just like, I just want to fucking get it out there. So I sanded it a little bit and then basically added all the bits and pieces that I needed. So I needed these 2 pins at the front. I needed 2 pins at the front so that I could wrap my Dyneema around it to keep the spear on, because it's an open nozzle. If it's a closed nozzle, then you don't need to do that. And then I added the bungee cord as well as the bungee holder. And then it was ready to go. So once I had all that on, I couldn't be bothered to varnish it. I was too keen. So we went straight out. And the first fish I ever shot was a mangrove jack, which is really cool because this gun underwater goes the exact same color as a mangrove jack. It's pretty sick. You know, once that was all sorted, I then put on a coat of varnish. I've put on 3 coats now. I want to get to about 7. Once you get to about 7, that's when it really starts to stand out and go really smooth. So yeah, that's how I built this gun. It was the first one I've ever done. There was a lot of learning in it, a lot of, you know, trial and error, but I'm pretty keen to get some more trigger mechs and shafts and do it all again. And I got these trigger mechs and all the bits and pieces off OBD Spearfishing. So they're a great website. You're able to get all your supplies basically that you need for building your own guns. And yeah, like I said, I do use it every single day. Like, we go fishing every day. We get a fish for breakfast or for dinner. So it's an incredible tool to have by my side, and I'll be using it all across Australia when I go traveling. Our whole family has started building these. Miri's built one, Uncle Nick's built one, big guns, Kia's built a few, and I'm gonna build another one, and Kia is gonna build a really big tuna gun. Let me know if you guys would be keen to buy something like this, because we may end up making a few and selling them as limited editions or something like that once we get a bit better. But yeah, let me know, because they're pretty cool. It's very different to just buying, you know, a pipe gun from Adreno. But yeah, that's how I built this. Well, if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe and all that. Don't have to if you don't want to, but yeah, I make stuff like this and campers and go spearfishing. So if you're interested in seeing that kind of stuff, stick around and there'll be heaps coming out through the year. You'll definitely see some spearfishing videos with this once I get my GoPro back from my little sisters. I'm gonna go spearing right now, actually. I'm hungry. Let's go. How do I pause?